Now guys, Brewski here with another checklist for you. This one comes from Victor Michael Smith on the Legion of Everblight Facebook. He basically wanted me to review a list, so I'm normally not going to go into depth as much as I would on each individual unit, but he really just wanted feedback on the list. His words: let me know how this is on a scale of good to overall feedback. If you can come up with a better list using 2 or 3 virtue hosts, I'd be interested in your thoughts on that too. Well, I'll answer that really quickly. I can't. This definitely is an interesting list and it has some perks, so let's dive into that first. Alright, so this is a 75 point list in the theme Oracles of Annihilation. The theme bonuses: the minions in the army are blighted models. When living small based minion warrior models are destroyed, you can replace it with an incubus. When an enemy model ends activation within 2 inches of a blighted model, it suffers corrosion continuous effect. And friendly models can begin play affected by upkeep spells of your warlock. So basically, you get free upkeep from the start of the game, and you can get incubus put in a little bit easier with small based minion warrior models. Your blighted models all have the corrosion continuous effect within 2 inches if something ends within them. So this list does 2 things, and the corrosion is definitely one of them. So this theme works perfectly for what you designed, man. You're going as a list with Bethayne, I don't know how you say this chick's name, but hopefully she doesn't beat me up, Pride of Everblight. In her battle group, she's got a succubus, a Nephilim bolt thrower, an archangel, and a Carnivian. She's also bringing along the Forsaken, a blightedness sorceress and Hellion, an incubus, a host of incubus I should say, and 2 virtue champions. And then she's got 3 virtue hosts, each with a leader and 2 grunts, and the spawning vessel and 6 grunts. Bethany herself is definitely an interesting caster. She is a spawn of Jabba the Hutt and I don't know what else. Her feat is Flesh Web. This is a really gnarly mechanic. Okay, this does a lot of different things, so it's easy to misuse. Bethany gets 2 Flesh Web tokens, then distribute 2 additional Flesh Web tokens for each non-lesser warbeast in her battle group amongst 1 or more living friendly faction models in her control range. While a model has 1 or more of these Flesh Web tokens, it can't be knocked down or made stationary. And a model can transfer to another living friendly model in Bethany's control range for the transferring damage warlock rule without spending fury by spending a Flesh Web token. It only lasts for this round, and when it expires, they're all taken off. So this is only a 1-turn pop and drop type of feat. It doesn't give you any kind of lasting benefit throughout the game. It's just used one time, basically to transfer around damage and keep your guys from falling down. In her abilities, Eyeless Sight, she's through clouds, stealth, she's never blinded. Immune to corrosion and fire. She's a living nightmare. This literally defines her. I would not date this chick. Living model, but cannot a beast or a warrior. Suffers damage like a beast, but never has crippled spirit. Can make slam and throw power attacks without spending fury, and effects modifying damage to how damage is applied to a beast do apply to her. And Spell Driver. When she casts a spell, you can use another model in the battle group and in control range as the point of origin. In other words, everything is an arc node for her. But this model suffers D3 plus 1 damage after it's resolved. So everything in her battle group can channel her spells. That's really handy for casting right where you're not, as long as they're within her control range, but they are going to take damage penalties based on that. For weapons, she's got Breath of Entropy. It's a 12-inch range, area of effect 5, spell, power 10, single shot, gives continuous corrosion, magical and corrosive damage, and withering depth. Models hit suffer -2 armor for 1 turn unless they're immune to corrosion. She's also got Blighted Claws, melee weapons, power strength 14, continuous corrosion, magical, and open fist, so she can do throws, slams, all that good stuff. Getting into her spells: Absorb Flesh, remove from play a friendly living warbeast. Bethany gets D3 plus 1 fury points and removes D6 plus 1 damage from herself. Can't reave the fury from the beast. When a beast dies, usually you can pull the fury. You cannot stack this with this spell. It can only be used once per round, so you're not going to nerf your whole battle group. But if you have something close to death, furied up, that's a good way to take it out. Breath of Corruption, 8-inch, area of effect 3, power 12 hit, models suffer power 12 corrosive damage roll. It's also a cloud and a hazard that stays in play for 1 round and does 1 corrosive damage to models entering or ending in it. That's a good jammer. Dissolve, target friendly model or units ranged in melee weapons gain withering death. Models take -2 armor for a turn unless it's immune to corrosion. That's pretty nice. Psycho Surgery, each model in the battle group in control range can remove D3 plus 1 damage. Once per activation only. Hypothetically, you could double up Psycho Surgery using her Spell Driver ability. It's a way to cast a spell and then heal up the units that you're damaging. It might not do equal because it's a dice roll, but that's one way to mitigate the effect. And Transmutation. It's an upkeep spell within 8 inches for either enemies or allies. Target an enemy, it needs an attack roll. Models affected get either -2 strength and defense and lose Pathfinder if they're enemies, or they gain +2 strength and defense and get Pathfinder. So you can use this either way. That's one of her upkeep spells. That's probably what I'd start the game with. That's a really good buff to your units to get them moving and to keep them tougher, to keep them a little more durable at the beginning of the game so you don't get shot. At the same time, once you get closer up, you'll want to use that on enemies. Basic gist of her, from what I see, you're really playing off the corrosion effects with a lot of her abilities. She bestows them on weapons and units of yours. She has several attacks, including a really good jam. She can heal, and she can all of a sudden, suck fury, absorb fury, basically. So you have a lot of flexibility with her. The Flesh Web is, again, it's a very strange ability. If you use it right, it can keep a lot of your units alive. Transferring damage is obviously something that's a bit of a shenanigan that's always cool to pull off if you have something that your enemy has to kill and then you can't kill it. Getting into her attachment, the Succubus. Arcane Assist. If the Warlock is in her command range, she can upkeep one spell without spending Fury. It's an easy way to also have an upkeep that just stays in. This stacked with the theme buff means hypothetically you can have Transmutation on something for the whole game without spending a point on it, as long as everything stays in the right ranges. Magic ability, she casts spells and she's unarmed. Her spells are Blizzard. It's a range 5 area of effect 3 cloud, placed on a friendly model and lasts for 1 round. This is just for screening, keeping that model safe or creating a hole. Hex Bolt. Models hit can't make special actions, special attacks, or power attacks for 1 round. Range 6, so that is really not super long range. You're going to have to get close. Influence. Range 10. Take control of an enemy non-caster or warlock model. Model makes 1 basic attack and this expires. Basically goes, nice gun, I think I'll shoot your friends with it. Or, nice sword, I think I'll have you shank someone with it. Again, her spells don't have a lot of range and she's pretty squishy. She's going to be using Blizzard to start off, and she's going to be helping out Bethany. Once you get closer and towards the end game, her offensive spells come into play, but again, if you move her too far up, she's going to be taken out pretty easily, I think. Alright, into the battle group. You got the Nephilim Bolt Thrower. Your battle group, from what I can see, just to say, you're relying on the ranged ability here. You're relying on shooting, and it's almost... I looked at this, and my concept was your army is almost like 2 small armies. Bethany and the battle group are off doing one thing, and they're basically just being a shooty menace. And your army is also, it has ranged attacks, but it's really taking advantage of the corrosion abilities. Okay? Almost looks like it's a disparity. It almost looks like they don't mesh well together, but I think this actually could work pretty well. The Bolt Thrower has eyeless sight like all Nephilim, so he can see through clouds, stealth, all that stuff. Quick work. When this model destroys 1 or more enemy models in melee, right after it can make a basic ranged attack. So if you're taking out a solo, if you're taking out something small and individual, you can make 1 ranged attack right after that's done. What's it going to shoot? A ballista. Range 10, power 14 with Thunderbolt. Enemy models hit are pushed D3 inches away. On a crit, enemy model is knocked down after being pushed. This does not say you can push. So be careful with this. If you shoot something, it is going to move. You don't have the option. And it's got, for close range, a bow blade. That's a 1-inch range, power strength 11 melee. Its animus is Far Strike. Casters range weapons get +4 range. So you're giving snipe to something. The Archangel is 1 bad mamma jamma, as you would guess. Okay, so got eyeless sight, flight, and moves over stuff. Pathfinder, it can climb over stuff. Soulless, doesn't create soul tokens. Deceptively mobile. Why do I want to say that like Bane? Deceptively mobile. At the end of activation, when it didn't run or fail a charge, it can advance up to 3 inches and then the activation ends. This being a huge model, that kind of helps. Flying high. Ranged attacks targeting this model greater than range 8 take -3 range to a minimum of 8. Friendly models can advance through this model if they can move completely past it. So you are basically debuffing range. If your army is like Signar or has a lot of long-range shooters, they're going to take a hit to their range and going to have to get closer if they want to take out your Archangel, which is good because it's going to suck up a lot of firepower. Weapons, it's got Dragon Breath. I can't believe this weapon. It's a bit over the top. Range 12, rate of fire 3, area of effect 3, power 14 with fire and continuous fire. It's the Bazooka Joe of dragons. I don't know what to say. This thing is just going to spend its whole game shooting until it wants to eat someone. Bite, power strength 21, damn, with consume. If it hits a small base non-caster or warlock model, it's removed from play. You don't even have to roll damage. If it hits it, it's just hot pocket time. You're done. Claws times 2, power strength 17, open fist. Animus is Draconic Aura. When an enemy model suffers fire damage, roll while within 10 inches of this model, add +2 damage to the roll. Fire continuous effects that affect enemy models within 10 inches of this model can't expire. Animus lasts 1 round. I wish you had more fire in this list. It's really just the Carnivean and the Archangel that I can see. That is so cool that you're just doing so much continuous damage between corrosion and fire. That is going to really wear down armies, okay? If you're fighting a lot of infantry-based armies, if you're playing Defenders of Ios or Gravediggers or Winterguard Command, I think that's going to be really damaging to the infantry end of it. I think the Jacks are going to shrug it off. Jacks and Beasts are just going to be able to go, I got a damage track. The Carnivean, meanwhile, is a Beast. It can assault, it can shoot on the charge. Eyeless Sight, Pathfinder, and Soulless, same kind of deal. Weapons, Dragon Breath, it's a spray 10, power 14. Fire and continuous fire. So again, setting shit on fire. Bite, power strength 18. Talon times 2, power strength 16, open fist, and chain attack. If this model hits the same model with both initial attacks with the talons, after resolving it can make a headbutt or throw against that target. Animus is Spiny Growth. Caster gets +2 armor. If the non-warrior model hits the caster in melee, the attacking model takes D3 damage points right after the attack is resolved, unless the caster is killed, destroyed, removed from play at that point. So again, that's your battle group. Again, they're shooty. They're almost a mobile fire base that you kind of have to keep around Bethany so that they're trading fury, they can trade spells, that kind of thing. They're almost doing more in terms of their range to soften up your opponent than the rest of the army. They're going to rely on that when they get closer. You've got the Forsaken. This is a weird one. I love the ability here, but it's just such a standalone choice in the army. It just kind of doesn't really fit anywhere, but it fits everywhere. It's kind of weird. Ferocious. During activation, this model can spend Fury points to make additional attacks or to boost attack or damage rolls. It can make 1 extra attack or boost 1 roll for each Fury. So this thing is a solo, but it acts like a beast. It's really kind of cool that way. It's got magic ability, and it has Resolute Rage. Model has +1 armor for each Fury point on it. Weapons. Claw, power strength 12. Spells. Blight Shroud and Consume Fury. This thing's going to eat furries. If you're a furry, Blight Shroud, remove all fury from this model. Enemy models within 1 inch of this model, for each fury point removed, suffer a power 8 magical damage roll. Add an additional dice for each focus or fury point on the model. On the enemy model, has to have at least 1 fury. So this thing stacks based on the fury or focus on the thing you're targeting. That's really tricky. I'm just rereading this. I thought of it one way last night when I wrote the list, but it does more. It stacks damage for more fury they have on them. Consume Fury. Target friendly faction warbeast. If the warbeast in range, removes up to 5 fury points and place those on the model to a maximum of 5. So this is also good for fury management. If you're riling up one of your beasts, if you're getting this thing really, really close to frenzying, this is a good way to mitigate it and bring it back under control. And then he can take advantage and use the Blight Shroud. Okay, then you've got a Blightedness Sorceress and a Hellion. She's cavalry, she has flight. Aerial coordination. Friendly faction beasts with flight begin their activations in this one's command range, can charge without being forced. Magic ability and reposition 3. She's got a spear, her mount can attack. For spells, she's got Blight Storm, put a 5-inch AoE anywhere in the model's command range. When an enemy model in the AoE is directly hit by an attack and the damage roll fails to exceed the armor, it takes 1 damage point. That's a good way if you're kind of got a weak attack or something here, you just want to take out single models. Frostbite, 8-inch power 12 spray with cold damage. Wind Ravager, while in the model's command range, enemy models cannot make a ranged attack. Lasts for 1 round. So she's coordinating your battle group because I believe they all have flight. Not the bolt thrower unless I missed something, but the other 2 have flight, so that's going to help them. She's got a good spray attack, and she can put up a jamming spell, and she can deny shooting. So if you're playing Signar or Rat or something with a lot of guns, that's one way to create a hole where they're not going to be fired. Incubi, weird unit. Again, Legion, I'm not as familiar with them as I am some other factions, and they're really giving me a lot of surprises in what they can do here. They're soulless. They're a host. Models don't begin the game in play. When a friendly living small faction warrior model is destroyed by an enemy attack, you can replace it with an incubus model that has not been put into play. It's got 2 claws at power strength 11 with combo strike. You can make a single attack and damage roll power strength 14. It's kind of weird. You take casualties and they get replaced by these little melee guys who can do combo strike. It's a surprising It's a powerful attack that would be really handy in your units when they have models dying. Alright, and then we're getting into the Virtue Gang. Whoop, whoop. Virtue Champions, you got 2 of these. They can assault, so they can shoot and charge. Immune to corrosion, they have Pathfinder and Blight Cloud. Model can use this once per activation. Center a 3-inch AoE on the model. Remains for 1 round. Models in the area of effect when placed, enter or end, suffer continuous corrosion. Caustic Presence. Continuous corrosion effects that may affect enemy models in this model's command range don't expire. Leadership Virtue. For friendly Virtue models in the model's command range, they all get Blight Cloud. Everybody becomes Pigpen from the Peanuts gang. They all stink, they all smell, and everybody's just repulsed by them, and they're taking damage. It's so bad. And thanks to Caustic Presence, those don't expire. Yeah. Peel back the layers. Model gets boosted melee attack and damage rolls against models suffering continuous corrosion effect. Holy crap! You are going to get boosted attack and damage rolls if something is under continuous corrosion. Every single Virtue model creates a cloud of corrosion around them. You don't want to charge these guys. You might as well just screen your damn army, man. Soul Ward. Models can't get souls from friendly models destroyed within 5 inches of this guy. If you're playing somebody that likes souls, they ain't getting them. No souls for you. Weapons. Toxic Spit. Range 10, 3-inch. Area of effect. Power 10. Continuous corrosion. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Magical and corrosion damage and Scather. Area of effect is a hazard that remains in play 1 round. Models ending or entering take 1 point of corrosion damage. That's good for jamming. Blighted Claymore times 2. Power strength 14. Magical and melee. Not bad. Then you got 3, count them, 3 Virtue hosts. That's a leader and 2 grunts. They all have Assault, Immune to Corrosion, Pathfinder. They have the same Peel Back the Layers rule, so they're all getting boosted melee attack and damage. You don't want friends, do you? Soul Ward. Enemy models can't get soul tokens from models destroyed within 5 inches of these guys. They have Toxic Spit, exactly the same as the champions, and Blight Claws at Power Strength 11. These guys are just a string and a line of continuous corrosion. If they're all placed correctly, they take advantage of the leadership from the Virtue champions, so corrosion doesn't expire. Potentially, you are literally eating away at your enemy every single turn, and you get the boosted attack rolls if they're under that. And lastly, you got the Spawning Vessel and 6 grunts. The vessel is a construct officer. It's carried. It can only advance during the unit's movement. It moves 1 inch for each grunt within 2 inches. Model is automatically hit and can't be knocked down, stationary, or blinded. It's a cauldron, dude. Focal point. If the vessel is destroyed, the unit goes bye-bye. So you want to take care of that and make sure that it's at least screened by some of the grunts. Recycle. When a living or undead model is destroyed within 4 inches of this model, +1 for each grunt in formation. In other words, 1 inch range. The model gets a corpse token and can stack up to 3. And then at 3, it can spawn Horror. Remove 3 corpse tokens and put a lesser warbeast into play within 3 inches of this model and under a Battlegroup commander, the model becomes part of the Battlegroup. But this means you're potentially throwing on a Shredder or a Mechano Shredder, one of these other guys, Harriers, into the list. So you can just sort of pop out models and get yourself extra small beasts. The grunts are not special. They just have weapons, Gaff, Power Strength 9, Range 2. They're just there to move it and increase the range that this thing can collect corpse tokens from. So there's your list. There's all the units. What do I think about this? Like I said, you have almost like 2 small armies. The battle group is just shooting offensive and taking advantage of fire. You want to keep the Blightedness Sorceress nearby because she's helping your flyers. The Archangel is helping out your fire attacks, so you really want to keep him with the Carnivian as much as you possibly can. The Virtue hosts and the champions and even the Spawning Vessel probably are almost like a separate army. They can work on their own. You can create a whole line and a group of models that are creating this continuous corrosion and aura around them, making denial really easy, I would think. That's going to be really great against things that aren't so tough. If you're running a jack-heavy army as your opponent, if you're coming up against Forges of War or Heavy Metal, Jaws of the Wolf, if you're playing against Trollbloods, potentially even Circle, I think you're going to have a harder time against the Sticks and Stones kind of list. That's where I think this list falls down. The corrosion is not as impressive on multi-wound infantry, tough infantry, and tougher beasts and jacks. You're almost more relying on the battle group in that kind of a situation than you are on the rest of the unit. And Cricks, obviously, because I love corrosion. But other than that, I think you can really take advantage of all the Virtue guys and the corrosive effect because it's very easy to deny board space, and it's going to be very easy to get all those boosted attack and damage rolls. I mean, that is sick. That if they're all under corrosion, if you space out the champions between the units, hypothetically they all are, everything is boosted attack and damage. literally, I think that's #1 in the I Have No Friends starter pack, so I hope your opponents are okay with that. To answer your original question, good to meh? I think it's pretty good. I don't think it's going to work in all situations, and I think it lends itself more to scenario play than assassinations, unless you just do a straight up battle group run on the opposing caster or warlock. But that's pretty good, and no, I can't really come up with a better list. I think I didn't look through all the other Legion beasts, and I didn't see a lot going on with corrosion. If there's more of that to be had, maybe you would switch something out. But I think as it is, if you do, it's really just not going to make the battle group less effective. The Archangel does really well buffing the Carnivian. The Bolt Thrower is a jack of all trades you could take in just about any list. Bethany herself is just spell slinging, messing with more corruption effects, and using that flesh web on a turn. You need to keep stuff alive. This is one of those where it's like, I think it's as good as you're going to get for a list, and I think you've done a good job crafting this one, so hats off to you. And that's another checklist out of the way. So if you guys enjoyed this, please hit like. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe to my channel. We're at 150 subscribers. We finally hit that mark. It was an absolute flurry of subs the other day after I posted the first Brewski's MVP. I would love it if we get to 250 by my birthday. That's in May. Let's go for it, guys. If you have people that are trying to get into the game, introduce them to this channel. Other than that, I really appreciate you guys for following along. I'll see you guys on the next video. Have a great day. Stay savage.